Am I the a-hole for thinking about divorce? Plus updates. Original post. I, 34 female, have been with Ken, 37 male, since I was 16. We met in school as he was my brother's friend. We have been married for 10 years, have a 2-year-old son and one on the way. Ken has always been my person, the person who you can't picture life without, and I honestly can't remember not loving him. I grew up with him, he's my everything. Unfortunately, Ken has this issue where it takes in everyone else's feelings like to heart. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. However, recently his best friend of 20 years has just found out that his wife has been cheating on him and none of the children are his. Obviously, his friend is devastated and is staying in our guest room. He's a nice guy, just life has him down right now. He started a process of divorce. The more time Ken spends with his friend, the more depressed he's become and distant. Our mornings used to start where I would wake up at 6 a.m. with our son, make breakfast. Then about 8 a.m. I could wake Ken up with a coffee and some breakfast before going to drop little one off at nursery and go to work. Ken works from home most days, only going into the office on a Monday. So I'd give him his coffee, he'd give me a kiss, and then I'd go off in my happy little way. Then I'd finish work, get our son, and go home where Ken would be making tea. I'd clean up after, whilst he was bathing our son and putting him to bed. I thought this was life. It might sound boring to some, but it was my life, and I loved it. Our house was filled with love. We would spend our nights cuddling, talking, watching a movie. Date night once a month. We would take our son out together on a Saturday and then Sunday go visit family or have friends over. You get the picture. I'm rambling. Sorry. Anyway, for the past month, things have been changing. Ken is more depressed. I make him a coffee in the morning and just get a mumbled thanks. I'd come home from work and a friend and him would be in the living room watching sports. I'm now making tea, bathing our son, and neither of them will barely talk to me. We don't go out on a weekend together, and I feel like a single parent. I've tried to talk to Ken about it all, but I get one-worded answers. Then he stays up till about 1 a.m., which I know is not super late, but I'm passed out by then. I'm exhausted, alone, and pregnant. I miss my husband. Yesterday I came home from work, and you know when something just doesn't feel right? Well, I went to find Ken to see what he was doing, as his friend wasn't in the house but Ken's car was. He was in his office looking up DNA kits for our son. I asked him why, and his response was, well, I just want to make sure all the kids are mine before I continue looking after them, as I'm not a free childcare. This broke me. When I say I'm devastated, it's an understatement. But if he thinks that I've cheated on him, then surely the trust is gone. Is there any going back? Am I just being pregnant and hormonal? Would I be extreme for looking for a divorce? I could put the papers in the envelope with the results from the DNA test. I think I'm gonna go cry in bed now. Had to take the day off work because I feel like I've just been gut punched. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. I think the friend needs to move out. Maybe go to couples therapy together and go from there. I'm so sorry you're going through this. I don't think you are just being pregnant and hormonal. I'd say individual therapy first. Clearly the husband has something along the lines of enmeshment issues, which needed to be fixed. Your husband's feelings are being fed from his friend. Working from home a lot disconnects you from being social, and the only social activity he gets is depression from his friend. This friend has to go, and once he does, you two can work on getting back on track the way you were. You really need to explain this to him and he should understand. These are all actions of the other person, not your husband, if that makes sense. Get through this and you two can be that much stronger. But as long as this other person is around, I feel it will only get worse. Good luck. Misery loves company. His friend is miserable and projecting his toxicity in your husband. You need to talk to his friend and ask him to leave ASAP, as he is causing issues for your own marriage, and he has your husband questioning if his son is actually his. This friend is toxic and has been whispering in your husband's ear, sabotaging your marriage and family out of bitterness from what his wife did. If your husband kicks off at you for asking his friend to leave, then serve him divorce papers with paternity test results showing the kids are his, and tell him he has lost his family because he chose to listen to his a-hole bitter friend. Not just ask him to leave, throw his stuff to the curb. He's convinced your husband you're sleeping with other people. I'd be scorched earth. It's about your honor and your peaceful marriage, but it has also cost your children the love of their father. Definitely couples counseling after you get rid of this guy, with your husband understanding this is a divorceable offense. Now for the first update. Hello Reddit. Well, after my post earlier this afternoon, I cried, then read all your lovely comments and I couldn't be more grateful. I think posting about it here really helps for some reason. Weird how telling complete strangers that I'm struggling with life seems to help. So I think after my pity party, which couldn't last long due to being a parent, I called my stepmom and dad. My mom died when I was 10. They are coming to stay with me on Friday. Crying on the phone helped, although I'm not really sure they could truly understand a word of what I was saying. I've spoken to Ken, well, more like spoke at Ken, telling him that his friend has till Thursday to leave. I'm not a monster and can't just tell him to leave at a drop of a hat. I've also told Ken he needs to leave too. Whilst, yes, I could go to my dad's house, I don't want to disrupt my little one more than needed, and all the things for my baby's here too. Especially as I'm 8 months along, it just seems stupid for me to be the one to leave. I've made it a point of not pointing out it's my house either. I'm trying to be common sensible. I'm not 100% sure Ken listened, but I did message his sister, who is a force to be reckoned with, and she said she'll make sure he's gone by Thursday night. Things I've told Ken I want is yes, he can have the DNA test, but I will be damned if I don't want to do it. He can also have one for the baby, as I have nothing to hide. I know that some people have questioned why I'm so against it. Let me make something clear. I would never cheat, because as I said in my last post, Ken is, or was, I don't know, my person. He's the only man I've ever been with, so that isn't any concern of mine. I'm just hurt that he wants one, because clearly he doesn't trust me. So things I want him to have the DNA tests, mainly so I can make him eat the results. Not literally, I'm just venting. I'm also going to suggest couples therapy. I already see one due to losing my mom and my little sister in a car crash when I was little. I want to suggest he sees one alone, but you can lead a horse to water but can't make him drink it. I don't want to force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. I want him to maintain contact with our son. Yes, he doesn't believe he's the father right now, but that's no reason he should neglect him as his, and I don't want to upset my son. Yeah, he's only 2, but still he deserves all the love from both his parents. He's done nothing wrong. Then obviously this one when he or she comes along. Still not sure about the state of my marriage, but even if divorce is what happens, I need to be able to get through to him so he can be the father he was. Am I going insane? Do I sound insane? I don't know why writing here helps so much. Thanks, Reddit. I want an update after Ken's sister rips him a new you-know-what. She's had enough. Oh yeah, he's broken. Jesus Christ, the husband just willy-nilly imploding his family based on nothing. And I feel for the friend whose entire life was upended. But I hope he realizes he's had a hand in destroying an innocent family who were helping him too. This happened to my friend, now divorced. Her husband's friend was in a terrible marriage and stayed only for his kids and is miserable. Stayed with my friend and her husband for a while. During this time, it poisoned a well and freaked her husband out. He refused to have babies because he was so afraid of becoming like his friend. Then everything was, my friend this, my friend says this, and he up and packed and left her and was like, I don't know if I can do this. No problems at all, planning to have kids, been together for a long time. Just was with his friend, and didn't want to be in a situation even though they have been planning for a family, and were always happy until that guy came around. Super sad. Your friend dodged a bullet. Scratch that, she dodged a missile. A well-forged piece of metal doesn't snap the first time it's tested. The man wasn't trustworthy and unable to give trust. Why would your friend want to stay married to and have children with someone flaky like that? Of course, the process of divorce is painful, but it was a blessing she found out when she did, rather than years later. I have a good friend who wasn't so fortunate. By the time she found out what a worm her husband was, she was almost past the age of having kids. I actually grew up with him and was his friend, but I don't speak to him after the way he acted, and she and I are still good friends. She doesn't have any kids and she really wanted to be a mom. She gave him her youth, and he squandered it by doing a bunch of dishonorable things I won't detail here. I hope your friend finds an emotionally mature and healthy guy, gets married again, and has the family she wants. Second update. Following my 2 other posts, I will answer some questions. Yes, it is my house. It was left to me when my mom died. I've lived here all my life. I didn't move out because I have a child and one on the way, so why should I be the one to leave? I get that some people believe I was the a-hole for asking him to leave, but as I was heavily pregnant, have a toddler, and it's my house, I wasn't about to leave. Yes, he could have stayed, but have you tried living with someone who just wants to argue or just not talk? I'd prefer my child not to live in that environment, thank you. At the end of the day, I'm a mother first, and a wife second. If you think that's harsh, then I don't know what to tell you. My children come first, end of. Well, Ken's friend did leave the day I told him he had till Thursday. He wasn't happy about it and shouted some insults at me, which was amazing. Ken's sister came and picked up Ken. I wish I could tell you what she said, but she didn't say anything in front of me. Just kept giving Ken death stares. We did get a DNA test for little one and Ken is the father. Obviously. Ken somehow thinks I've intercepted the results even though I wasn't the one that did it. I wasn't the one that got handed the results, etc. So he's clearly lost his mind. My dad came over and whilst I was making tea, my waters broke. My little girl is here. She's healthy and happy. She was 9 pounds 8 ounces, so no concern of anything with her. I'm now a mom of 2. I'm home now and Ken has been able to see his baby girl, although as she's not had a DNA test, he disagrees with her being his because his family doesn't have many girls. Yet he has a sister, so I just rolled my eyes. I don't really know where to go from here. Ken is refusing therapy. He says there's nothing wrong with him or his brain. I beg to differ. He wants to get another DNA test for our boy but won't tell me when or where so I can't interfere. Maybe one day he will come to his senses. My dad and stepmom are staying with me for a while to help me with the babies. I'd like to say I'm okay, but honestly my emotions are all over the show. I don't know which way is up. Ken's sister visits the babies and we have an unspoken rule that we don't speak about Ken, apart from when our son asks about him. I wish it was the kind of update where he got the results, seen how much of an idiot he's been, and we move on. But sadly, that's not the case. I can't dwell on it too much. Just take things one day at a time. I do miss my person and worry that he's missing out on his baby girl's life already, which if I think about too much, I will just sit and cry. But I don't have time for that. As always, thanks for listening to my rant. I might update if anything else happens in my life. Right now, I'm still left wondering if I'm doing the right thing here. Is there anything I could do differently? Why are my kids so hard for him to accept all of a sudden? Now for more advice before the last update. I think he's either projecting or having a mental breakdown. It's gotta be one or the other. And tell his sister to tell him to get help or it's over. And make it clear that if he doesn't go to therapy/counseling or whatever, that a divorce is imminent. I'm leaning towards it being a total mental breakdown and his friend egged it on. I can't imagine what would cause such a sudden switch in personality otherwise. I think he is now in denial because he wants to not be the father. Otherwise, he screwed up his whole life for nothing. And that would be more dangerous to him than being depressed because his wife cheated, but at least be validated. But also, is it possible to have DNA results in 4 days? Yes, if you're just wanting at-home DNA testing and it isn't for a court case, etc. Private companies can do it in 3 to 5 days. Most likely he's projecting. Every thief thinks that others are of his condition. Another thing, if he uses the thing about girls, attack with it. The next time he says that there are no girls in his family or many girls, tell him that in that case, his mother cheated on his father, or he thinks that his sister was brought by the stork. Do whatever is necessary legally to ensure daddy's supporting the kids financially. Do not let him off the hook. Now for the last update. Hello again, Reddit. Things have been bizarre, but now I have closure. I know what's happened to my marriage. I know what scum Ken really is. He's not my person and never truly was. So now I just want to divorce him, cut my losses, and move on with my life. I'm still at home with my babies settling into motherhood. My dad and stepmom are still here, but they will be leaving soon once I'm more emotionally stable. To say I'm okay would be a lie, but now I know what I need to do. I have some sort of closure with Ken. I know what happened with him and I know that is not my fault. Turns out Ken was having an affair and has a baby on the way. Even typing that makes me want to throw up. I found this out when a visibly pregnant lady just knocked on my door and asked me when I would be leaving the house as it's Ken's house. When I say this confused the crap out of me, I mean it. I talked to this woman for a while to try to work out what she was talking about. It turns out that she's Ken's side piece. Well, technically in her head, she's his fiancé. A month ago, Ken got down on one knee and proposed her in my freaking kitchen. Classy, right? So they have been seeing each other for a while. She's having his baby. She believes I'm the ex-wife who Ken is letting stay in his house till I get on my feet. We apparently broke up a few years ago, and none of my kids are Ken's. When I go to work in the mornings, Ken goes to her house and works from there. They were waiting for marriage to move in together. How are you trying to marry someone when you are already married? Freaking weirdo. I asked for proof of all this. She has pictures of them together. Apparently, she has a lonely fans account that they make content together. Vomit. I told her we are still married and explained everything to her. I'm not sure what she's going to do, but hey, not my circus, not my monkey. Now I want a divorce. Is it true that once you talk to a solicitor about divorce, they can't represent the person you divorce? I want to go around our town and meet with as many solicitors as possible as the first hour is free, so that he has a very hard time getting representation? Is that too petty? The house is in my name only and is protected, so there is no way he can take it. I have all my money, and we do have a joint account, but that's just what we put our share of household bills in. I haven't spoken directly with Ken. His family have completely cut him off and has been kicked out of his sister's house. All those people that was concerned about him having tumor or something wrong with his brain, I really don't think that's the case. I think his actions just caught up to him as his lies were going to come out once his baby was born. I think that's what happened. He got backed into a corner and tried to fight his way out. Through divorce process, I will get the court to do DNA testing so he has proof for both, even if it chooses to not believe it. I'm mentally exhausted from all of this and sat wondering how I didn't notice. Might have to go for a night test. But honestly, would I be so wrong for just making his life as difficult as possible to get legal advice? Or is that too far? I want him to suffer. Everyone knows that family law judges love it when you deliberately complicate the process out of spite for your soon-to-be ex. It's basically their favorite thing. It's also just a bad idea, even if you don't take that into account. But yes, this is an easy way to tick off a judge. OP wants to be divorced at this point. Make it so that ex can't find representation in the area just makes the divorce take longer and cost more money. It may make sense as a strategy to block your ex from one or two particular attorneys/firms, though I won't comment on the ethics or morality of doing that, but it doesn't make any sense to try and block them from everyone. This is like the 10th story where the affair partner shows up to take the house that isn't even the cheaters to begin with. I used to own a house that I let my friends, or friends of friends, rent rooms from me while I also lived there. Some stayed for a year, some only months. Multiple people would lie to whoever they were dating at a time and tell them they owned a place. Blew my mind when it happened the first time. By the third and fourth time, I wasn't even fazed by it. For real, it's weird how people have this compulsion to lie about owning a home. I bought a house, and my now ex-boyfriend moved in with me. His credit was terrible and we couldn't get an apartment together. So I decided if I was going to be liable for everything, then I would buy. After I broke up with him and kicked him out, a friend/coworker came to me and was clearly struggling to tell me something. Her friend's boyfriend worked with my boyfriend, and my boyfriend had been telling people he bought my house. My friend's friend quickly corrected things, but it was telling that dropping the boyfriend was the right move on my end. They lie about saving for a home too. When I was single and dating, there were so many dudes in their late 20s who lived with their parents, but were doing so to save up for a house. The simple question, so what is your timeline, usually got a glassy-eyed stare. I just stopped agreeing to date anyone who still lived with their mother at that point. Ugh.